Let's bring in economist John Jordan. He is also a former naval intelligence officer and the overseer at Stanford's Hoover Institution. John, thanks for being with us once again. They had expected that there might be 9 million more people added to the unemployment rolls. Instead, you got 3.5 million people who got their jobs back. Is it time to celebrate at the White House, or is it still too early?
Well, first of all, the president needs to be very cautious and not get out in front of public opinion on this. There's still a lot of people really hurting, and you don't want to have a mission accomplished moment or another recovery summer moment, which both blew up on Presidents Bush and Obama. So you want to capture the zeitgeist of the time and temper expectations.
So what the president says, that he has been expecting a V-shaped recovery, and he seemed to signal in the Rose Garden that that's exactly what he sees happening. When you say he's got to be cautious and not premature, what are the pitfalls here that you see potentially ahead?
Well, there's still a lot of people hurting. The pitfalls are political. You want to get the messaging right. And the White House has had a bad week and a half with regard to the messaging strategy. Here's what happened. Economists are rearward-looking folks and often believe that past is prologue. And that isn't the case here. The instant recession is unprecedented in both its scale and scope and in its nature. Here we didn't have an economic shock like a liquidity crisis in 2008, or an oil shock, or anything connected to economics. Basically, the economy was just shut down and frozen in place. And the unemployment numbers were so high, the filing for unemployment numbers were so sky high, that states couldn't keep track of them, absorb them fast enough, and there was a lag time. And so when they don't get counted until the benefits get dispersed, and because of the huge number in the backlog, they weren't starting to be paid out until May, when in fact they were April filings. So that distorted the numbers that economists usually rely on.
The president obviously has pointed to this pandemic as something unprecedented, and in fact it is. The question, I guess, and there's no way to know this until November, is are voters going to take out on this administration, their frustrations over what's happened as a result of COVID-19?
That's the big unknown. The fact is that the president is not responsible for COVID-19. The Democrats will try to blame him and try to talk down the economy and blame him as much as possible. But the question is, are the Americans just going to accept that this isn't perhaps something that China could have done a better job on? And is this something the president really isn't can be held responsible for? It's not the product of his policies. And how quickly does the economy rebound? And how quickly are people's lives put back together? And then you compare that with contrast those campaigns or contests between two candidates. Who is going to be tougher on China? Who is going to do a better job in completing the economic recovery? And who is going to keep Americans safe? That's the battle that's going to be fought over the next 5 months.
Let's take a look at some of those numbers from that May jobs report, which was welcome news not only to the White House, but really to all Americans. Health and education services added 424,000 jobs. Manufacturing, 225,000. Retail, which has been hit hard, obviously, during the pandemic, 368,000 jobs. And leisure and hospitality, 1.2 million jobs. That comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then the markets this week at Friday's close, the Dow was up 3.15%, the S&P up 2.6%, and the NASDAQ up a little over 2%. Obviously, a lot of optimism and a lot of people getting their jobs back. The question, John, and you can put on your economist hat for this one, is that going to hold, or is this just a momentary blip?
We have every reason to believe it'll hold. Those numbers were taken in mid-May, and since then there have been massive reopenings. And we still don't have New York and the tri-state area open. We still don't have Los Angeles. We still don't really have Chicago or Detroit's numbers in there. So when those numbers come in, it should have the effect of accelerating this recovery. One set of numbers that is in that report that I found very, very interesting, it's not a huge number, 84,000 jobs went back to car dealerships. That tells you that people on the ground and people that run these businesses that are closest to their customers believe that people are going to be making these types of purchases and are willing to invest in staffing back up for that. That bodes well for durable goods purchases going forward. Also, travel numbers. Travel is way up. And that has implications for airlines and ultimately Boeing as airplanes are brought back into use and airlines consider replacing and adding to their fleets. So these are all trends in the right direction, and there's some things that can derail it, but the stock market got this right. The academic economists got it all wrong.
Some signs of optimism after a couple of, well, pretty grim months. John Jordan, good to have you on. Thank you.